Deep within the human existence lies an eternal question: what is true good? Everyone, striving for a happy and fulfilling life, unconsciously defines for themselves the highest value around which they build their destiny. Some see it in material wealth, others in public recognition and high status. For some, happiness lies in fleeting pleasures, for others in love, knowledge, or comfort. But if the goal is to achieve maximum health and fullness of being, then power should be the guiding star that illuminates the path of life. What is good? All that heightens the feeling of power, the will to power, power itself in man. What is bad? All that proceeds from weakness. Not contentment but more power, the thinker asserted. However, power should not be understood as brute force or the ability to manipulate others, subjugating them to one's will. Such an understanding, according to the philosopher, is merely a manifestation of hidden weakness and self-doubt. After all, the true power in question has a completely different nature. And here the question arises: what is power in its true sense? How is it connected with health and fullness of life? And why should it be the highest value for those who strive for self-improvement? The answers to these questions lie in the depths of human psychology and philosophy, and understanding them can radically change one's view of their own life and its possibilities. Friedrich Nietzsche, the great thinker, in his work, On the Genealogy of Morality, insightfully notes that even in weakness, there may be a desire for domination, a cunning instinct to subjugate the strong. He asks, where else does this will to power, inherent in the most feeble, manifest itself? Unlike the Machiavellian notion of power as dominion over others, Nietzsche urges us to seek power within ourselves, in the embodiment and expression of our own capabilities. Power, in his view, is synonymous with growth and expansion, as he writes in The Gay Science, or, as contemporary philosopher John Richardson puts it, the enhancement of a capacity or activity already given. There are many examples: an athlete building strength, a writer perfecting their style, an orator honing their public speaking skills, a teacher expanding the horizons of learning. John Richardson, in his book Nietzsche's Values, reveals the essence of the highest and purest form of power in the German philosopher's understanding. Power is not simply the prolongation or multiplication of life, but the elevation of it to a qualitatively new level of possibilities and control. This is an ascent, a self-overcoming, where the meaning of existence lies in growth and strengthening, not only in expansion but also in overcoming one's former states. In his works, Friedrich Nietzsche offers a kind of roadmap to acquiring power, and the starting point on this path is defining a goal that meets a number of important criteria. First of all, this goal must be truly significant and ambitious, requiring a person to give their full strength and abilities. Secondly, it should benefit not only the one striving for it but also those around them, contributing to universal prosperity and well-being. Equally important is that the chosen goal leads to personal growth and self-improvement, allowing a person to unlock their potential and become a better version of themselves. And finally, this goal must be chosen independently, based on one's own beliefs and aspirations, and not imposed from the outside. As Nietzsche himself noted in one of his unpublished notes, the question of why humanity exists should not concern us. It is much more important to ask ourselves, why are you here? And if you do not have a ready answer, set high and noble goals for yourself. Acquiring such a goal, corresponding to all these criteria, is only the first step. The next stage on the path to power is the tireless and consistent movement towards its achievement, requiring daily effort and dedication. However, obstacles and difficulties inevitably arise on this path. A person may be overcome by doubts about their own abilities, fears and anxieties, as well as simple laziness. Lack of time and resources, criticism from others, health problems, or personal life issues, all of this can seriously slow down progress and make one doubt the correctness of the chosen path. In the pursuit of influence and domination, obstacles and opposition encountered along the way should be seen as an opportunity for self-improvement. Faced with resistance, we are forced to push the boundaries of our intellectual and physical capabilities, thereby increasing our strength. For a person striving for power, resistance is as valuable as a worthy opponent for an ambitious warrior. Just as a warrior hones their skills in battles with a strong opponent, so too does resistance serve as an incentive to develop our abilities and overcome shortcomings. As Nietzsche aptly noted, the will to power can manifest itself only against resistances. It seeks that which resists it. Every expansion, incorporation, growth, is striving against something that resists. The strong nature needs resistances, therefore it even seeks them out. Friedrich Nietzsche, The Will to Power. By participating in the game of resistance and victory, as Nietzsche defined it, consisting of an obstacle that is overcome and immediately followed by another obstacle that is overcome again, we steadily increase our power and, ultimately, achieve our goal. And then, according to Nietzsche's final instruction on the path to power, we should leave behind what has been achieved and set our sights on a new, more grandiose goal. Friedrich Nietzsche, in his work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, expressed the idea that any creation, no matter how much it is loved, must sooner or later be overcome. This idea finds a deeper explanation in the works of the philosopher Bernard Regenster. Regenster emphasizes that the one striving for power should not seek to destroy his creations or hate his former love. Instead, the key is to overcome what has been achieved. The will to power forces a person to consider any achievement insufficient, pushing them to seek new, more complex challenges. The essence lies not in the achievements themselves, but in the process of achieving them. That is why the striving for power manifests itself in the form of constant growth and self-overcoming. In The Will to Power, Nietzsche explains that this striving has no ultimate goal, except that the very joy of the cycle is an end in itself. This circle represents a continuous cycle, choosing a goal, overcoming resistance, increasing one's power, achieving the desired outcome, and then abandoning what has been achieved to begin a new cycle. Thus, a life built around the pursuit of power turns into an endless process, interrupted only by death. The ultimate goal of such a life becomes nothing more than joy, great happiness, spontaneously arising as a result of the constant increase of one's power. Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher, presents his understanding of happiness and joy in his works, The Antichrist, and The Will to Power. He argues that happiness is the feeling of increasing power and overcoming obstacles, and joy is only a manifestation of the feeling of achieved power, and not an end in itself. The ethics of power, developed by Nietzsche, has a significant impact on the worldview of modern man, offering a unique solution to the age-old problem of suffering. Suffering requires justification or meaning, otherwise nihilism, weariness of life, and hatred of it arise. Nietzsche emphasizes that a person is willing to accept suffering if he is shown a goal for which he suffers. It is the meaninglessness of suffering, according to the philosopher, that is the curse of humanity. Throughout history, various religious, philosophical, and political systems have tried to resolve the problem of suffering, arguing that the current reality with its suffering is only a transition to a better, true world, where suffering is minimized or completely absent. Examples of such true worlds are religious heavens or social and political utopias. These worldviews seek to give meaning to suffering, convincing that patience in the present will lead to redemption in the future, in a reality free from suffering. However, the fundamental problem with these supposed panaceas lies in their tendency to diminish the significance of our earthly existence and the present moment in favor of some other reality or future moment, in the truth of which we are invited to blindly believe. As Nietzsche insightfully noted in his work Ecce Homo, the very idea of an otherworldly, true world was created for the sole purpose of devaluing the only world that is given to us, in order to ultimately deprive our earthly reality of any purpose, meaning, or task. In contrast, the ethics of power proposed by Nietzsche represents a more practical approach to the problem of suffering. If we recognize power as the highest human value, as a factor primarily contributing to the flourishing of the individual, then we must also recognize the value of resistance, which provides us with opportunities to increase our power. Suffering, in essence, is the result of resistance. It is a feeling of pain or discomfort that arises when we are somehow hindered. Therefore, if we value power, we must also value suffering, since it is an integral component of power. Or, as Nietzsche explains, instead of striving for pleasure and fleeing from suffering, humanity, according to Nietzsche, craves power. This insatiable will to power drives people to seek resistance, to overcome obstacles. Displeasure, perceived as a challenge, becomes an integral part of this process. People do not simply tolerate it, they actively seek it, because it is in overcoming difficulties that their striving for power is realized. Nietzsche's philosophy does not demand blind faith, nor does it encourage reliance on external forces, whether deities, scientific achievements, political leaders, or ideologies. It offers a realistic and compelling approach to the problem of suffering. This worldview fosters a meaningful and active life, serving as an antidote to the passivity that plagues modern society. By embarking on the path of the circle of power, or, in other words, the process of continuous self-improvement, one unlocks their potential and attains the great happiness and great health available only to those who strive for power. Friedrich Nietzsche, a prominent thinker, asserted that the feeling of power is the source of genuine pleasure. In his understanding, happiness blossoms in the triumphant awareness of one's own strength and capacity for victory. This idea is reflected in his work, The Will to Power, where he explores the deep-seated motives of human behavior. In his work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche reveals another facet of his philosophy. He speaks of life inherently striving for constant self-overcoming. This means that one must not rest on their laurels, but constantly evolve and strive for new heights. Only in this continuous forward movement lies the true meaning of existence.